Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Darkstone Dossiers with your host, Anthony Darkstone.
Greetings and a very good evening to those of you in the evening time. Buonasera, buenas noches, tutti. So, and any language you'd like to pick. And to those of you watching in different time zones, a very good afternoon and good morning. And we do have a lot of people that join us on the Darkstone Dossiers from various parts of the globe. And the reason they do that is because some of them are members of the SAM International Assembly. And the International Assembly, thanks to something that George Schindler spurred me to do, our dean, we managed to set up with an remarkable and amazing help from President Dr. Joel Zaritsky. And we're adding a number of notables and people from Morocco, Norway, Finland, Iceland, Malaysia, Singapore, different places. And would you believe, even people from the US and Canada. So that's our International Assembly. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'm delighted, in fact, to have as my guest tonight in my series of couples. Those of you who watch the show regularly will know last week we had David and Kylie Knight. The next week, the next show in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a good friend of mine and her husband. Her name is Abby. You may have heard of her husband. He's called Jeff McBride. So that's something we're looking forward to. Tonight, we have two members of our International Assembly from the USA, Alexandria the Great. And by way of introduction, we're going to play a little clip which gives you a notion, and that's all it'll give you, a notion of some of the remarkable things that this truly amazing lady does. Wow. Now, you actually get a chance to meet her, and I've always made a joke with him. I've known him for a few years, and I've always made this joke. She gets to sleep with her manager. Well, actually, her manager is her husband as well. And if you occasionally hear me referring to her as Donna, we're amongst friends. Stage name, obviously, is Alexandria the Great. And if you've seen some of my posts on the SAM and elsewhere, I obviously put in her stage name as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, visually or otherwise, let me introduce you to Alexandria the Great and her husband, manager, Bill Purnell.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody.
Wow. Great for you guys being here. Thank you so much. I know we did this little clip about America's Got Talent, but I also know that you've done things on the Today Show, CBS, NBC. Well, we're going to run out of time naming all the TV station shows that you've done. But I want to pick up an aspect right from the very beginning. Now, Howie Mandel referred to Houdini, and you very graciously kind of smiled. I think it's important right from the get-go to let people know that, yes, you do what Harry Houdini used to do, but you also do things that he couldn't do. You've kicked it up a notch. Is that right?
Yes. One of the things that, we knew in researching and reading all about Houdini was that he didn't like people that copied him. And when we were trying to figure out what to do, different types of escapes, we kind of used him as a base and wanted to pay homage to him, but we wanted to kind of give it a 2000 kick. So that's what we wanted to do. We knew that if Houdini was around, he'd probably take it up a notch, and that's what we did.
You certainly did, because I know some of your escapes, as you've rightly pointed out, not some of them, all of them are dangerous. So before we go any further, let me very quickly, on behalf of the Society of American Magicians, our president, Joel Zaritsky, myself, and indeed the entire show, say, please do not try this at home. Do it outside. It's got nothing to do with us. No, but on a serious, I'm being flippant to make a serious point, because there's a lot of thought and effort and, dare I say it, training that goes into what you do.
Yes, we've really tried to practice on the safety side. When we were talking about doing this, we kind of had three different aspects that we were doing. We did definitely the magic, but in order to make the escapism, but in order to make that safe, I actually trained with a bodybuilder, and I also became a free diver. So for holding my breath hold training, all of these components together kind of make Alexandria the Great who she is. There's a lot of training involved.
It's not just a matter of filling a basin with water and putting your head in it and counting.
No.
It's free
No.
diving. It's because I know that you do other escapes from the pool on stage. There's a huge tank filled with water.
Right. We have a 3x3 cube that we did that we use as well. Right now it's in my back porch, filled with water. But for training. But that's the second escape that we did on America's Got Talent. And one of the things that it does require, is to train, because in my second escape that I did combine several of Houdini's escapes and put it all together. And it did require me to do a lot of breath work and a lot of strenuous training in order to extricate myself from what I was in.
I know, in fact, it is a branch of magic, obviously, but it's a very exclusive branch of magic, because it doesn't involve sleight of hand. It doesn't involve all the things we're accustomed to in doing on stage or in front of a TV camera. And as you said, Donna, the training is paramount. Yes, we have people, lots of ladies who do it remarkably well. I'm not going to name names. Many of them are friends of ours who do the gypsy rope tie and then come out of the curtain wearing a jacket and the ropes. And, that's great, and it's wonderful entertainment, but not denigrating them in any way. Your escapes are, how can I phrase this politely, on an entirely different level.
Well, when we many years ago, when I was getting into doing escapes, and I really never even, I had a wish that I wanted to try it. I never even dreamed that I would get to where I am right now. And when I met Bill, he had just as much of a love for magic and Houdini as I did. And he, to try to impress me, he did a very simple rope tie in my pool. And, he figured that I would be, oh my gosh, this is my boyfriend. He's doing this great stuff. And when he came up, I said, oh my God, I want to try that. And he said, no, you can't. And I said, oh no, I really want to try it. And he said, well, I studied and I don't think that this is something you could do. And so he said, all right. And then he figured he'd be my knight in shining armor, because I absolutely wasn't going to be able to get out. And I got out in half the time as him and blew him away. And he was like, okay, we're doing this.
I was supposed to impress her, and somehow or another she ended up impressing me. And with that, right away, I was like, oh my God, we need to do this. This is really important. Because I knew how groundbreaking it was, because there weren't any women doing this. But she wanted to be a teacher and was deathly afraid of being able to show what she could do, for fear that it wouldn't be accepted, which is really sad, because this could have been very, very different. But in the end, I think it's still profound.
Oh, absolutely. I think, that is a word I would join you in using. It is profound. And as the phrase goes, where in the last 10, 15 years, women in show business, including magic, obviously, which is a branch, have broken the glass ceiling, and in some cases just shattered it a little bit. But in your case, Donna, I would say you just kind of blew it up with a nuclear bomb. I mean, no woman, as far as my research, has ever done what you do.
Well, in growing up and in the beginning, I used to watch Doug Henning and David Copperfield, and they had they used to end their shows with these Houdini-like escapes, and I didn't want to be the box jumper. I didn't want to be, ta-da, look what he did. I was, I had said all along, no, I want to do the good stuff. I want them to look and I want to get out of the Houdini like stuff and say ta-da myself. And and that's kind of how we took this. I was the one that kind of took the lead and wanted to be that Houdini like person.
Yes, I think there's a lot of people already chomping at the bit, wanting to talk and do things with you. Well, at the end of the show, what we do is, to use a Vegas phrase, a meet and greet, where everybody's mics are on and the chat is on, and you can directly speak with Alexander the Great and indeed Bill Purnell. Now, in case some of you have seen my various posts and thought, gee, Darkstone can't spell. Darkstone can't spell, but he's pretty good sometimes. Your spelling of Alexandria, I've actually taken from you, because it's not like the city in Egypt, is it? You spell it differently.
Oh, no.
Guilty as charged here. I'm the one that came up with the name. And the way I did it was I tried to do Alexander the Great, but just put an IA to feminize it. Now you're right, it's not spelled that way. Just like in most people. In fact, it comes up as spell check every single time I put it down. But that's kind of where it was, which I knew what she was doing was definitely groundbreaking. There's a deeper meaning to all of this, and the teacher and her, she'll explain a lot of that. We wanted to have something that was, I thought, as strong as what she was doing. And, let's face it, Alexander the Great, his goal was to take over the world. I don't think her goal is to take over the world, but maybe it's to help it.
Well, if you ever do, can I come and work for you in your government?
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Well, speaking of taking over the world, I remember, how long ago was it? 3 years, 4 years? I don't recall. We got into a little bit of a flap because you were booked for a convention in Moscow.
Yeah.
And we were trying to get the tank and, tons of chains. And if people think moving big illusions and doing a France Harari, that's fine. You get all your stuff graded and shipped, etc. Now, this was going to Moscow at the airport, and then from the airport, it was going somewhere else in a tiny plane. In the end, we solved it. We just decided, you guys decided, no, I don't think this is going to happen. If you're not going to pay for all this stuff, no, there's no way we're doing it for a fee and shipping all this over, because I don't think they quite got, I got a lot of Russian friends in the Moscow Association of Magic, as indeed we all do, but I don't think they had thought it through, what it involves. Now, speaking of that, and the reason I bring it up is because when you travel and do shows in the States, or indeed, I know you actually have for 2021 got some things booked already, provisionally, like everybody has, provisionally, in Europe and elsewhere. What are the logistics, Bill? Because I know you handle it, and yes, of course, you're manager, but you really husband, and you got to take care of you got to take care of your wife. I get that, as many of us guys do. What are the logistics involved in that? You got to break down the tank and the chains, and how does that work?
So a lot of times, depending on how we want to do it, we've tried to use carriers to be able to get stuff there. A lot of times we'll drive it ourselves because it's safer that way. It is different when, you're trying to do something like this. I'll be honest, even on America's Got Talent, when we had done that, we had brought the tank down ourselves. It was in New York City, so we were able to do that. They actually had a problem with the tank. They thought it was leaking, and they tried to change it a little bit, which they ended up rounding the corners, which logistically, that can be a nightmare for a performer, because when she even does everything, she knows every inch of that tank. She knows the corners, so she knows where she is. If you get a chance to see that escape, she's in a straitjacket, 25 feet of chain and 5 padlocks, gets out of the chains, gets out of the straitjacket, and then picks the lock in the tank to get out all underwater. The problem is when she does this, she kind of flips upside down. You need to know where you are. And she got kind of turned around and didn't know where she was. A few seconds here or there can be the difference between a great escape and a big problem. And so she held herself together and was able to still escape. But that's where, having your stuff, knowing what it is, knowing every inch of it, going over and practicing worst case scenarios, that stuff is absolutely important. And that's why, again, like some people say, oh, we'll just do it. We'll build a tank for you. Well, okay. But if we're going to do it that way, we need to be there for a week or two to be able to train with it, because everything can be different. And, the one thing is, I know a lot of the stuff that she does is death defying. I really lean on the second part of that, the defying aspect of it. I wanted to come home to me. We've got 3 kids and a couple of grandkids. I want to make sure that she gets back. It's a life wish, not a death wish. So my job is to make sure that she has everything that she needs, and that it's, we've worked on it. And as she said, we train harder than even the escapes themselves, because we have to be able to make sure that if there's a problem, she can be okay. And then that's kind of, that's why we like to take our own stuff and bring it ourselves, because we know it didn't get banged. It didn't, Janesta did an escape, sadly, in a milk can, like Houdini did. And because it got dented on a trip, he ended up drowning because he couldn't get out. And so that's that stuff where that's my job. I've got to make sure that it's right. So logistically, that's important to us.
Oh, absolutely. I would say, to add to your word of importance, I would say vital and crucial, because let's not get too dramatic, but let's tell it like it is. It's life or death. It's not just having a train coming at you and getting off the tracks. You got to hold your breath on the water as well. So it's like, now, we've shown a little clip about you, and I know Brett Shull, who takes care of a lot of stuff behind the scenes, full acknowledgement and thanks to him, has posted some of your links on YouTube. So if people want to go to see some of your other work, can they just go to YouTube and type in Alexandra the Great?
Yep.
Yes.
As simple as that.
It's simple. Yeah. We've got our own channel, so we've got a lot of stuff there in terms of training videos and escapes, and there's some fun stuff there.
Oh, okay. I think that's useful. Now, speaking of escapes, and you mentioned this earlier on, and I knew this before, but you actually mentioned it in the clip. You're a mother, 3 children, and you have grandchildren.
2.
Yep, 2. And there's a third one, which I know about. That's the dog you inherited.
Very good.
No, hey, I got to mention the dog. Everybody who knows me well, my close buddies, I love dogs. They know that I love dogs. Now, I bring that up because, and I know you won't mind, because I did ask you during our previous conversations when we were putting the show together, that you started when you were 47.
Yes, I did. I had we've been dating since we were 16, and
my junior prom date.
So, I started doing, rope ties early on at 16, but, I had a real difficulty showing people. I didn't think I would be accepted. And because there weren't a lot of women that were doing it, and I put myself in a box that this is not something that women do. I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to be a mother, and I didn't think that either one of those would allow me to be an escape artist. And that's an unfortunate thing, because I could have done this much earlier in life. But you know what? Coming through at 47, that's a pretty cool thing too. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It worked out fine.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see that. We're very glad. And hopefully with all the provisional gigs you've got for Europe next year, it will work out equally fine. Speaking of that, oh my gosh, you know what? Yeah, maybe we might. I should send a clip of this once we get it edited by our good friend Mark Williams in Vegas, who takes the clips and edit them, and then Most Illustrious puts it on a showcase. Then we also, through the first VP on the SAM Assembly, we put it up on Aber TV as well, so it gets a good audience. And hopefully we'll get this clip to Mike Miller. Some of our SAM compères will know who that gentleman is. He books a talent for the SAM conventions. I'm not saying anything. I don't have any influence whatsoever. So all I'm saying is, wouldn't that be kind of cool to have you in Vegas in a tank? Well, just saying. These things can work out. You never know. I bring that up to make an even more serious point, because in the book stroke manuscript that you've written and the process of doing as well, and I'm going to quote, and I have to read it so I get the quote right. You've said, "We are all escape artists, and we escape twice." Explain that, if you will.
Well, I think our first escape is when we're born, we escape the womb. And unfortunately, the second escape is, when we leave this earth. And, it's what you do between one and the other that really defines you as a person. And, so we are all escape artists and we don't realize it. And you just need to kind of hone in on what makes you shine and bring that light into the world.
Which I think you've done more than once and in many ways, because you are truly, not just from what you do, but from who you are truly inspirational, because you told me you don't mind sharing the fact that you're a grandma. You don't mind sharing the fact that you were adopted. So in many ways, you had to be your own inspiration to get to the prom, meet the great Bill Purnell, and do all the other things that you do. Because I know as a teacher, you do teach, but you do get involved in inspiring people. Tell us a little bit about this aspect of what you do.
Well, I think it's important, especially nowadays with all of the COVID things that are going on. And, people are finding themselves kind of, lost and alone and having to reinvent themselves with job loss. And I think it's really important, even for health reasons. One of the things that I've kind of picked up is breathology. I'm a breathology coach, and just trying to stay healthy through breathing properly to get through this lovely pandemic that we are all facing. And I think it's a very important part of our life right now. And I'm hoping that, through some of my challenges, I'm not looking for somebody to get into a tank and put on a straitjacket, but through some of the challenges that I've put myself in, that they will realize that maybe the challenges in their life, they can overcome them, that they can either, find a strength in other people, the people around them, or just try to kind of work out the situation themselves. And they can do that. They can rely on themselves. Because one of the things that I have based my escapes on, much like Houdini, is using two keys, your head and your heart. That if you have the knowledge to get through your situation and you have the heart and the determination to make it through, you can get through anything. And I think it's a very important part of not only past but present things that are going on to help people get through to the future.
Well, the teacher in you has done this inspiration, not just talked about it. I mean, you do this on a daily basis with young students and older students, or older people, if you like, as well, adults. And explain a little bit more about what that involves and the breathology, as you term it.
Well, one of the things that people take for granted a lot, and all of my escapes are based on breathing. Being able to hold my breath, being able to control my breathing. And, because that was a very viable part of my escapes, that's kind of the turn that I wanted my life to take. And, I do try to through focus and breathing, try to get people aware of the situations that they're facing.
And who better, in my humble view, who better than you to do it? Because, people can say, oh, yeah, it's very nice. The life coach stands up and tells you be inspired and do this. And, some of us older folks have been around the block a few times and fallen over while we're doing it. Kind of go, yeah, we know all that. But again, in my humble opinion, you're not just talking the talk. You've shown them because you've walked the walk. Pardon the cliches, but it's all I
No,
can think of on the spur of the moment. Yes, please go ahead.
And I think that that's also an important part. I'm not the kind of performer, escape artist, or person that's the look at me and takes all the credit. I'm very much I just do this, and that's probably one of the biggest walls that Bill has had to kind of chip away at is, I kind of think that I don't I'm not doing anything that special. Well, I'm just doing what I like to do. And, that's it. And he's like, no, you don't understand. And I think that, that's been one of our biggest bones of contention, shall we say, that, I don't want to be in the limelight. I do what I do, and well, that's it. I put my pants on and I jump in the tank.
Well,
it's the challenge aspect that she loves, and I think sometimes she takes that for granted because she thinks it's kind of a personal thing that she's doing. But I know as a teacher, she understands that people take something from that. Like, for instance, with all of her escapes, we were big fans of Norm Bigelow, and Norm did it in such a way everything was full view, and most escape artists, a lot of them did things. I mean, Houdini did everything behind a curtain, and we understood that, and there's a lot of people who disagree. They love that aspect of the mystery of kind of what's there. We think audiences are much more sophisticated. And we think more than even their sophistication, they're owed and deserve an opportunity to be able to see this. And when you see her struggle, when you see what she's going through, in the end, we hope audiences take from that, that, like she said, maybe I'm not going to be put myself in a tank and a straitjacket, but if I've got some problems with a manager, maybe I can step up and say something. Maybe I can have that confidence to be able to do a little bit more. That's what we're hoping people take from our, certainly from her escapes and our performances, is that, what, I think we can go beyond. We can do a little bit more than we realize that we can do.
Right.
Well, you're right. I mean, I have to agree with you, Bill, because I think it's a mark of greatness where there's no real ego involved. I mean, people don't really need to hear me saying that. They've actually listened to what Donna said a few moments ago. You could plainly see there is no ego involved. It's just like, hey, I'm doing this, and if you're enjoying it, that's great. I'm getting a double thrill out of it. And you spoke about contention. You use that word. And on my last show with couples, and on my next show with another couple, I asked the previous couple this question. I'm going to ask the next guests on the next show the same question that I'm going to ask you now. Here you are, 24/7, 3 children, 2 grandchildren, and a dog later. You're living together, you're working together, you're eating together, and all that kind of stuff. And there's got to be times when it's, how do you cope with that? How do you kind of go, okay, I'm going to stop being the husband and the manager, or I'm going to stop being the wife and just Alexander and Great? I mean, I'm just very interested in the psyche that goes on. I personally have, or used to, not anymore, when my son and I used to work together, not a double act, but we used to be on the same bill. And right up until curtain up, it would be, for whatever reason. I mean, it happened with Laurel and Hardy, Siegfried and Roy, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Sometimes that happens. Each one of us has our own way of kind of dealing with it, and then going, ta-da, curtain up, and we're on, and all that's pushed aside. I'm anxious, and I know a lot of our audience would be interested in having your answers, whatever they may be, your answers.
Well, it's interesting because what she just talked about, the dichotomy between what she sees herself and how she does things and how I see it, is very different. And it's funny. It has caused problems for us because in many ways, even in our stage performance, now we've done the stuff that most people have seen. The TV stuff has been kind of a high drama, but we've also done some comedy stuff too. And the husband and wife, the bickering stuff can be really kind of fun, especially when all of a sudden, there's an escape involved. So, I tend to be kind of the more the pen to her teller in terms of the one who's usually pretty gregarious, over the top, plays up everything. And she's rolling her eyes, kind of going, that's just him type of stuff. In many ways, that's kind of what we've had, because a lot of times I've been like, do you understand what this is? Do you know how much more we can do? Can you see what this is? And she's usually the one going, oh, Bill, it's just this. It's no big deal. And so a lot of times I've seen opportunities that she hasn't seen just because she takes it for granted in terms of what she does. And I don't think she understands. It's funny. The big thing in entertainment right now in terms of movies is superhero movies. And she laughs at me. You just saw her laugh now. I mean, I think what she has in terms of as a heroine, as someone, she's got superpowers. The things that she does, other people can't do. And she doesn't see it that way. She doesn't see herself as special. She sees herself as someone who kind of just struggles and muddles through and does what she needs to do. And I'm the big cheerleader going, no, do you see the significance? Do you see all this stuff? And she's like, Bill, no, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. So that can be kind of a contention because I see so much more. And she's just like, no, it is what it is.
Well, I think you play a very important role. And, I talk about this, or have talked about it in my workshops and lectures, et cetera, is that as a performing art, many magicians, I'm not saying all, but many magicians forget that they need a director. Filming yourself, or watching yourself in a mirror or whatever is great, but you still have that subjectivity. This is why even, the great Martin Scorsese, Paul Newman, Clint Eastwood, even when they direct movies, they have somebody direct the part that they're in the scene.
Right.
Because you cannot bring yourself to the level that's needed unless you have obviously trusted, and a source that respects your art. I mean, what are your comments on that, Bill?
Well, the objectivity, I think, is what you're really speaking about. And that's what's hard for Donna, is that sometimes to be able to kind of take a look at what she does and put it in perspective, it's hard because she's part of it. It's hard to critique yourself. It's also hard to give yourself credit.
Yes.
There's a lot of escape artists that maybe give themselves way too much credit. She's the opposite. She's her toughest critic, and she sees less significance because if she can do it, okay, then anybody can do it, and that's how she teaches. Quite frankly, not everybody can do what she does, and she doesn't understand that.
Well, in some ways, I hope she never does.
Me too.
That's a compliment. In some ways, it's a compliment, because I think you lose that lovely edge that you have. Because I know you're an amazing lady, you're an amazing cook. I mean, I know I had you guest on another show where you did some amazing stuff and made me drool, and a few other people. But outside of your teaching and your inspiration, and obviously your training and your performances, do you have time to get involved in other things, or are you kind of like busy with all of that?
No, I do try to, I'm very much, while my kids were growing up, very much a part of their lives. And, I coached my girls' soccer team because, I didn't, in fact, here we go again. When my oldest she's going to be 30, my middle daughter is 27. And when they were growing up and in, elementary school, they wanted to play soccer, and all the dads were stepping up to be soccer coaches. And my girls kind of looked at me and I was like, heck no. Yeah, I'm not going to coach you. And so I jumped in because there weren't any moms that were coaching because, they didn't have the time, and I made the time. I made the time to do that. I taught all of them CCD. We're Catholic, and I felt it was important. Family's really important part. So, I like to spend time with my grandkids. So I do try to make time for all of that.
Well, that's good. That's the reason why I asked you, because again, we come back to this word inspirational, and if there's anything I wanted to convey in this show, that was certainly one of the main things, which was, look, it's a lady, and she's inspiring other people, mainly, young girls. When I say young girls, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, teenagers, younger than that, can say, oh, yeah, I can do that. And she didn't start. And they can, even if they don't know you, kind of identify you in a way by going, oh, hey, that could be my mom, or that could be my grandma. And yeah, I could do that. I'm not saying people got to run around, put a straitjacket on and jump in a tank of water. I'm not saying that.
No,
Yeah, go ahead.
that's true. And when I started doing this,
Mm.
about 10 years ago, I had said to Bill, I want to have a purpose, and I want to be able to teach. And at that point it was, I want to teach girls, I want to teach women that, don't let that glass ceiling, stop you, break it. And it's okay to be different and embrace those differences. And, now with everything, the turns in the world, I think that can be said for anyone, male or female. And everybody is facing their own types of challenges, but that is the message that I wanted to, I wanted people to take away, was that, well, okay, I may not put myself in handcuffs and leg cuffs and jump into a, 15-foot pool, but you know what, I certainly can talk to my boss, or I certainly can, get out of this situation. Early on, we worked with a local group of called Girls Inc. I know they're national, but we worked with one of the local chapters, and it was just truly inspirational, and it was just amazing to see how these young girls who really didn't have much, and they would just sit on the edge of their seat, and I actually did a Keller rope tie with them. And I gave them all just a simple piece of rope, and they took it home, and you'd think I gave them $1 million. I showed them how to do it, and it was so wonderful to teach them that, they needed to rely on themselves, and they shouldn't be afraid to ask for help if they needed it.
And they can get out of this situation.
And they can get out of the situation that they're in. And that was, that was very gratifying.
It was symbolic.
Symbolic, but also in a practical way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not ready to talk about it now because we're still working on it. One of the SAM RVPs and John Midgley and Dr. Joel and myself, we're looking at something down the line, January, February, whatever. We'll want to put together this little group. I'm just talking about it because you brought up the topic, and I thought, hey, I could mention that of where people are in this situation or in this mind space. Yes. And through no fault of their own. It's not about politics. It's just about the way things are. Globally, in many ways, and particularly for people in the performing arts, and even more particularly for magicians of any caliber, because we, as far as I know, are the only performing art that needs that interplay between the audience. And we are deprived of that. We're told go cold turkey.
I know.
Yep.
It's not just
the human aspect of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're kind of, talking about this, and we've got the project a good halfway there with Most Illustrious and RVP John Midgley, et cetera, who's highly qualified in these matters. So we're kind of putting this together, and I'm going to definitely come knocking on your door or your tank, saying, come and sit with us in a round table, because people need to hear, men and women, whatever age, they need to hear that. And it is if you want, for want of a better expression, a boost to the psyche, to the emotions, going, oh, gee, it's not just me. There's other people in this. So we'll talk about that in due course. What I wanted to go to is that you were talking earlier on about Alexandria not totally, and I think it's a lovely thing that she doesn't totally get how good she is. So I can imagine being a fly on the proverbial wall, and she's going, yeah, I can put a straitjacket on, jump in the tank, and I can be out of this in 10 seconds. And you'll go, no, take 25 because 10 seconds is too quick. It doesn't create the element. So I can almost hear, I'm sure.
Guilty is charged.
Yeah. I can almost hear this. So do you want to share a little bit of that conversation?
You want to start, or do you want
No,
me?
you can start.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, guys. I came out of you with left field on this. I did warn you.
No,
As a talk show host, sometimes I got to. Well, yeah, that's what I got to be. Yeah, I've done a few talk shows in my day, and so sometimes I like to do that with the guests. So everybody laughs, and we just have fun. But we're learning. We're all learning. So go ahead, Bill.
Well, it's I loved a TV show called Monk, and one of his favorite lines was, it was a blessing and a curse. The blessing is that she's so good at what she does. The curse is that sometimes she's so good that you're right. We have to have discussions like, that's too fast, and let's do this and let's do that. Now, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of escape artists, and this is where we're different. There's a lot of escape artists that are very big into fast. You know what? Get out as fast as I can. World records and all the rest of the stuff. And I understand some of that stuff, and it's good. I do think, sadly, it cheapens it. And
I agree. In my humble opinion, I agree.
Yeah.
As a director, performer, producer, whatever, I think the whole idea of an escape is to build the emotion.
And that was one of the reasons why we kind of waited. We paused when we were deciding to do America's Got Talent, because there's a time constraint, and to do an escape to the caliber that we wanted to do, in less than 90 seconds is truly, not what we're looking for. And, that was really hard for us because, you're right. You want to do the buildup. You want to do the prep work behind it. I have to breathe up. It's not just like singing a song and you can change the lyrics. I can't do that. There is certain steps that I have to take to keep myself safe.
Yes.
And, that was a big challenge because, we didn't want to cheapen the escapes.
Sorry, Bill, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, no, it's funny. It's like doing a trick. Okay. You can just do the trick, but we all know it's about the story. It's about kind of what you do and how you take them. In many ways, when we build our escapes, we don't build them from the stage out. We build them from the audience to the stage. We really want to take our audience on a trip. We want to be able to, in many ways, we talk about this all the time, but it's like building a roller coaster. And the idea here is that, you don't, with a roller coaster, okay, the emotions that you go through are amazing in a roller coaster. And, the idea of going up slowly and hearing that click, 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 building the anticipation, you're going higher and higher. And all of a sudden you get to that leveling off stage, and then all of a sudden you drop down and you feel those emotions. Well, with America's Got Talent, a lot of times they want to just put you at the top of this hill and just drop you. That's doing a disservice to not only the escape, but to the audience. You want to have them, and you want to allow them to have all those emotions. If you do it right, like for instance, when we did it, for instance, I suggested to them, everyone raise your hand. I think a lot of when in that escape that you showed, a lot of people missed the fact that, and we even saw them kind of do it. They, the comments on the America's Got Talent YouTube page, everyone put down their times, how long they held their breath, which I thought was adorable. Most of them missed the fact that she blew her air out. So holding your breath with full lungs, okay, with 2 full tanks, you can stay down for a long time. She's a free diver. She's got a breath hold. We've got it on YouTube. You can see it on the thing. She's got a 420 breath hold. But I'll be honest. But here's where it would be boring to go that long, okay? Because again, at 420, you're not moving, you're not doing anything. What she does is dynamic. When you start moving around, you're using air. When she blew her air out, so she goes down with almost nothing in her lungs, you don't have very much time. So that escape was less about getting out and more about doing it before you black out. Because if she went too fast, she'd use up all of her air and she would drown. If she went too slow, she'd run out of air. So in many times it wasn't even just about getting out of the restraints. It was about timing it just right. That's what I think is really significant. And in many ways, that's where the symbolism comes in here, where all of a sudden what she's doing is really kind of life. It isn't just getting it done. It's how you do it, and what you do and how you handle it. In any of those things, if she gets nervous, that's the one thing. I don't care how long you can hold your breath. If all of a sudden fear gets in,
yeah,
your air is
you're
gone.
done. You're done. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and that's where I think that's the significance of it.
It's not like standing on stage wriggling out of change or whatever.
Right.
It's a breath thing, as you say.
Right.
The danger is real. Yes, it is part of the performance, but let's not negate the fact that it is real. And you're not just there saying, okay, I'm going to hold my breath for 4 minutes plus. You're actually having to move around and find something. And we don't want to go there, but it might be like, oops, I dropped that and I need to get to it quickly, or else I'm getting out of the handcuffs, So we have lay people watching, so we won't go into the detail of that. But Donna, please go ahead.
No, but the other thing I wanted to say was that, the other kind of outreaching thing here is it's also, I jump in, and I think that's another part that people miss, is that, okay, not only did I go in with what my residual lung, what a capacity in my lungs, but when you jump in, if you don't land the right way, and this is why we practice this a lot, there have been times when I've jumped in and I've literally hit in such a way that I've knocked the wind out of me.
So she lands on her back, or
I
goes
land on
forward.
my back or lean too far forward. So that also is just right from the get-go. I need to make sure that I pretty much stick my landing just like a gymnast.
Because I know we've got a couple of stills that we're just going to run in any order. It doesn't matter. One in particular, which I kind of looked at, and I kind of thought, there's not enough money that I would do that. I'll tell you the one I mean, where you're upside down with the chain round the rail of the pool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this one, most illustrious just brought it up. Let's have a look at that.
Norm Bigelow loved this because he said, it was truly innovative and different. So one of the things the water torture cell is obviously, that's the greatest escape. And that's something that's just really cool. We wanted to try to replicate something. So in the pool, being able to do the leg cuffs wrapped around the bottom of the ladder, she can't get to the surface unless she gets out of everything. Now, if everybody knows, I don't know if anyone knows, but Houdini actually didn't do the water torture cell with handcuffs. Most people think that, but he actually didn't. He did the water torture cell just with the leg stalks upside down. So we wanted to go that one extra level. And again, I love that too. I just think it's, there's not a lot of people. We're also very fortunate, the Adirondack Club that allowed us to do that. They knew how good she was. We would scare the life out of the lifeguards. But the idea of what she was doing is, that it was pretty cool.
The idea of that, as I say, I looked at it. I was fascinated by it. But there's other aspects, like even with Houdini. If you talk about spoon bend, everybody mentions Geller's name. I have my views on that, but we're not going to express them here. Having said that, there are different ways that spoon bends are by different people. So here we're talking about a water escape. So, escape, Houdini. Well, Houdini, but like you say, behind the curtain, and there was some water stuff, but not what you do. And to the best of my knowledge, and I will stand corrected by X, I believe he only uses about 5-10 feet of chain, whereas you use up to 30 feet, possibly more. Is that right?
Yes.
We wanted to take it up that notch. Again, we didn't want Harry to be upset at us and copy. So we tried to do it a little different way and add to it. And we think audiences appreciate that.
Yeah. Sorry, Donna, go ahead.
No, and the other thing I wanted to say was that, we also added, if you look at the chaining, our lock around my neck is.
Let me interrupt you for a second, because as you're speaking, what I'm going to ask most illustrious to do is to just give us a slideshow of some of the slides that we have. We have a video that we're going to show, but that's for later. Just the slideshows, just bring them up on the screen. So please keep talking, and maybe you can even talk us through some of these.
Okay. Yeah, when I did my the leap of faith, we put the lock very close to my neck. A lot of people don't do that. So they may do an escape with chains, but the lock is usually somewhere in the middle of their chest, not up close to the neck.
And with this picture,
Okay.
actually, this is kind of perfect. The top right-hand corner is a picture of Alex, Donna, when she's on stage for America's Got Talent. Tell them a little bit about that one.
Oh, this was my second appearance when I did my underwater cell, which is the chains and the straitjacket right next to it. But the big thing about this is this was on judging night, and they wanted me to wear a bathrobe out onto stage and cover up my bathing suit. And up until literally I walked onto the stage, they had it like by the side of the curtain, inside the curtain. And I said, no, I said, everybody else is going to be on stage in their costumes. I said, I want people to know who I am. And I walked right on stage in my bathing suit. And it was funny because Howard Stern brought up the point that, kudos to you. I think that Howie can take a lesson from you standing there in your bathing suit, and they wanted me to cover it up and I wouldn't do it. And I think that was, as Bill will adequately say, probably one of my finest moments. I didn't want to cover up, and
That's great.
I wasn't a size 2 or a,
Oh,
20.
there you are on your straitjacket. Oh, and there's the tank. There's the tank. And I now notice the rounded corners. Yes. That you're referring to, Bill. Yeah.
Now, the backstory on that one too was that they didn't let us know. We didn't get a chance to perform that whole week. They kept on telling us no, later, until all of a sudden that night.
That was the first time I was in the tank in 10 days.
Oh my gosh, really? Whoa.
Yeah, they never let me do it. And the other thing I do want to point out, one of the other things that, you can practice, but there's certain things that you can't practice for. They never told me that there were going to be floodlights around the floor, the base of the tank. And when I got in there and you're used to a certain thing, I open my eyes and I'm able to see. I was completely blinded by the light. I could not see a thing in that tank. And that was part of, I really had to control myself because initially I was panicked because I was like, I can't see anything because the lights were literally shining all over me.
Yeah. We're back to the tank again here, I think, with some children being inspired by you. And if we go to the next one.
What I love about that one, though, just real quick, was the
little
boy who's kind of holding his neck
right there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah,
it's just awesome. But you can see how involved the audience gets.
Yes,
and that's what I love about what she does is people really feel it. And I think it's kudos to her. I think her Q factor, just people kind of see her as they immediately identify with her. So it isn't kind of this, far away, that's somebody different. They can kind of identify with Alex, with Donna, and it makes this very, very different. And we get a chance to take our audiences on a ride.
Oh, this is what we were talking about earlier. We're 5-foot chain, 3 locks, and 1 pair of handcuffs. Well, everybody can read what's there. 15 pounds of lead weight, 30 feet of chains, 8 locks, and 2 handcuffs and leg cuffs. My gosh.
But you can also see the difference where the lock is around my neck and where the lock is around Houdini's neck. So
mid-breast for him and up around her neck. Now, most escape artists will tell you, don't chain me around the neck. Don't chain me around the neck. She's doing stuff where she's, again, 12, 15 feet underwater, blowing her air out, and yet chained that way. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, that's one where you made the cover of a magazine in Boston. Is where
the Boston Globe. Yeah,
where you hang your hat. And do we have another one that we can look at? Oh, there's the lock up around your neck again, and another lock.
Yep.
Do we have another one? Well, we have a few. We'll be showing a few. Oh, that's your family.
That's my family.
Yeah. Now, if you look, folks look at that and they go, "Oh, that's a nice family." Little, and it is, little do they know, the lady on the far left of the picture does the most amazing escape things underwater. You know, that's a nice family picture you could see anywhere. So it just goes to show you, you know, looks can, and often in your case, definitely are deceiving. You've added another grandchild since that picture, I gather.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of cute too. Last night, maybe Donna can kind of share a little story about our daughter, Kristen.
So she had a Friendsgiving, and a couple of her girlfriends, and they happened to be talking about their mom, one of the girls' moms, and one of the other girls piped up and said, "Oh no, if we're talking about the coolest moms, Kristen's mother wins hands down." And Kristen was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Kristen, you know." And so of course they had to pull it up on YouTube, and the girls who did not know were completely blown away, and they were they were like, "Okay, she wins. We want to book her for our next party."
And so they had to watch the videos, and they went through all of it and stuff like that. And it's funny, Kristen kind of plays, again, she's very proud of her mom and stuff like that, but she kind of plays it to the side because, again, you know, if your mom is the coolest, you don't have to say it. And,
right.
and it seems like all of her friends end up doing that and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're all fans of her. They're all on Facebook with her and stuff like that. It's really cute.
Just wait till your grandchildren are a little bit older and the show and tell at their school.
Yes.
That's going to be fun.
That's what I would like to do. I would like to be their show and tell.
Yeah.
So one of the funniest moments was when, of course, the first America's Got Talent that you showed to open this series is filmed ahead of time, and so we were at home. And when we were, I was sitting in my living room with my kids and Bill, and we're watching the show. And I graciously, America's Got Talent gave me the cutaway and to commercial, and then they came back. And when they broke for commercial, every single cell phone in the house, including our house phone, went off because all of their friends were calling them, and they wanted to know, "Tell me your mom is in the living room with you right now. She does make it through the break, right? She got to get out of this." And it was the funniest thing.
And that's the same thing even on the website. The comments through, a lot of people are like, "Tell me that she got through." Like they didn't even finish watching the video because they were afraid, especially when Howie said, "I don't think she's moving." And that just people lost it. So
yeah, I have a question for you. Did you get through? Yeah, I'm being silly.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I'm being silly is I want to come back to the train. You've been wonderful. There's so much we can go through, and there's so much I know about you guys. I would love to do it, but it's like everything else, this time and what have you.
Exactly.
What I'd like to do though is focus a little bit on some of the training aspect. We have a video that shows you training. You're doing curls, which are not the easiest things in the world, sitting in the gym. Are you doing it underwater?
Yes.
No, there's a clip of that we have. We can bring that up.
I'll kind of
there it is. Yeah.
I'll give you a little background. So one of the things, as we said earlier, was that you really have to do extreme training. And one of the things that I do is not static, it's dynamic. So what we try to do is, and of course I can't do the escapes 24/7, but what I try to do is I try to kind of replicate things that will cause that I can do dynamically while I'm and stress my body out. One of the things is lifting underwater, where I'm holding my breath and I'm doing sets of, I think it's 25.
It's sets of 15. So 3 sets of 15, and she gets a couple of extra reps in there. But the idea here is that, again, you're under stress. How much can you take? And the reason that she does this is that, again, the stress in terms of being able to hold your breath, like you said, Anthony, doing curls is tough enough as it is. When you do it underwater, there's so much more stress on your system.
Yes.
And if she can kind of push through, so she started with, 1 set, got to 2 sets, got to 3 sets. Her record is 75 reps underwater. This one she happens to do 47. Her record is 75. But that's
what?
Where, yeah, she. So
what kind of weight have you got there?
So that's 25 pounds. So it's 2 10s and the bar is 5. So that's 25. She actually can do 50 underwater. Now, some people say, well, the water holds a little bit and makes it a little bit less. And it does. It makes it a little bit less. It's probably instead of 25, probably more like, I would think like 20 or 22. But
yeah, that's a big difference. I mean, you know, 5 pounds on each, 2.5 on each side is enough.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's 25 or 22.
The more important thing is I'm holding my breath and I'm creating that dynamic.
Right. I mean, at one stage I could see you going,
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here talking to you and I know you're live. I'm watching that video and I'm going, what? That's the impact it has. I mean, how silly is that in one way, right?
Well, it's pretty unique.
I'm actually getting
there's not a whole lot of underwater lifting on YouTube. You can find anything on YouTube, and there's not.
Oh, fine. We'll do that when we make the visual, the clip, etc., to go on the showcase, and we will put in the link in there, which I will get from you in due course. What I want to do is to have a little bit of fun before we kind of wrap up, and open up kind of meet and greet to the chat, as it were, so people can talk to you directly or ask you questions or chat or use their mics or whatever. Before that, you and I were talking, and you, as the well, not you, Bill, but the manager said to me, "Oh, you know what, Anthony? It would be very cool to have Donna hold her breath underwater, and while she was doing this, have all the audience members also hold their breath for a while and see who wins." I've got $100 on Donna. Okay. Right. All right. So, right. You gonna do this underwater or what? I mean, you go ahead. You do it. You tell people what they need to do. I mean, I don't know anything about this. It's your thing. Go ahead, do it.
Well, you know what? We can do it instead of making it long. Why don't we do this? We'll do what's called a negative. So basically, a negative is blowing your air out and still holding your breath.
Okay.
So does that sound good? And we'll do and she'll do it underwater.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm looking forward to this. Right.
So breathe in a couple times. Set yourself up.
Oh, hold on. You got to tell the audience what you're doing and what they need to do.
She's just now.
If they want to try along.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Right. That's the whole idea. Yeah.
So take a couple of breaths in and out. Okay, and then we're going to count to 3. We'll do one big inhale
and then
blow out, and
then
I'll do this
hold.
underwater. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I just heard a crash. I think that's my good pal Tim Wise, who is also our first vice president on the well, you guys know this because you're members of the SAM International Assembly. He's our first VP and also the head honcho of Abra TV and Abra TV News, all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah, but so no, I'm just kidding, yeah, but there's a lot of people here who kind of tried it, and I thought, yeah, we did the gag about underwater, so that was fun. So we'll do it for real another time.
But I'll tell you what, you showed us the new training method. Because I haven't done this with her. We've done the underwater lifting. She does these things called Houdini's, where she actually blows out all of her air, goes down to the bottom, and then again swims underwater with the cuffs on. I haven't made her laugh. That's a good idea. That was lose her breath when she laughed. So that's what I'm going to have to do. She's going to be underwater. We're going to do funny things and make her laugh underwater. That's good, Anthony. I like that.
Can I help sell tickets?
Sure. Sure.
We'll send it to the SAM Endowment Fund. I mean, we need the money for the
Yeah.
SAM
Sounds
Endowment
good.
Fund, so we'll sell tickets for it. Yeah, no, anything. But I'm not ashamed. I always want to plug the SAM. Why not? That's what it's
Absolutely.
about. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, listen, I think we've come to that kind of time where, sadly, because I had a blast doing this.
I'll be
I don't
honest,
know-
Oh, this is
I don't know
fun.
about anybody
Well,
else.
this is
I
flowing
always
by.
do talking with you guys. I always do. Is to express my thanks to Most Illustrious for setting up the Zoom links and the slides and everything else. And dear
Okay.
Brett Saul, who is our man in black behind the scenes, lets you in the waiting room, lets me know who's here. So we'll open up the chat. And I just want to acknowledge a couple of people, if I may, and then let you folks unmute yourselves and talk directly to Alexandra the Great and to Bill, her husband. So let me just acknowledge very, very quickly in the room, the president-elect of the Society of American Magicians, Mr. Tom Gentile, who will take over from Most Illustrious in July next year. There he is, waving at us. Would you have a few words for us, Mr. Gentile? Sir?
Alexandria, I can relate to those kids that were just literally feet away from you, because in 2011, you were in Holyoke, Massachusetts,
Oh my God, yes!
and you did the straight jacket, and you were like 3 feet from me. I was sitting in the audience, and you were struggling underwater, and I was like, same thing. But 2011, and
Oh, that's cool.
I'm so glad you're still at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a wonderful time.
Yeah.
We did a Houdini seance, and Teller was there, and
I'll be honest.
Yes.
We were both so blown away, especially think about trying to do what we do, right? And then do it in front of your idol. That was the hardest thing going. And at one point, I mean, especially me, I kind of play the pen in this. And I was so frightened to even do the speaking with him, because I'm just like, he's amazing. It was really cool. And you'll appreciate this. The one thing he said afterwards, he said, you know what? I love the husband and wife kind of thing, but I love that she's the one that's doing it and not you. And then the cool thing he said was, and you know this about Teller, is that he turned to us, he said, you know what? You created real drama and I loved it. And I'll be honest, I got a goosebumps because again, he's big on drama, and to actually say that we created that, I was just, God, that's something we've taken forever.
But to see
Fantastic.
it live and to hear him talk all in one night.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me very quickly, before everybody talks to Donna personally, please allow me please to acknowledge our first VP for the Society of American Magicians, all the way from Canada, Mr. Rod Chow.
Thanks, Anthony.
Welcome.
Bill, that was awesome and really amazing to hear your story. And I have to say, your performances are truly breathtaking.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And Bill, so you're the personal trainer for Donna, right? So this is like really great that you can keep that in the family. And I just can't believe that you can keep this up like on a regular basis. And there's so much. I mean, it's beyond human endurance that what you can do. So I'm really impressed. And congratulations.
Well, we hope it keeps us young too, because you know what? I mean, it certainly keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. And thank you, Anthony, for hosting that and putting together the videos. It's really great.
Always a pleasure, as you know, and thanks to Most Illustrious, whom you know very well. Rod also, by the way, is a member of our SAM International Assembly. Am I plugging this? Yes, I am. You should join the SAM. And if you are, I mentioned that early on. I just want to very quickly acknowledge a very, very dear friend of mine who's a layperson who's watching this. She's not going to join in and say hi or anything. I just want to acknowledge the fact that she's here. That's all it is. She's an amazing photographer and also a teacher like yourself. So that's Crow. You know who you are, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that you're here. And jump real quickly to a gentleman I usually introduce at the beginning of the show, but I deliberately left it towards the end part, and that is our Most Illustrious himself, who is putting up the videos and the slides. And I'm pretty sure that he has 1 or 2 words that he would like to say.
Oh, yeah. This was an absolutely fantastic talk tonight. I've got to ask, though, how do you practice for worst case scenarios like you were talking about? Because they are worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
We've had in the tank. He's actually locked me in the tank and dropped the key inside the tank, and I've had to find the key and open the lock on the outside. You know, we've done it where we do. He mentioned Houdini swims, where again, my hands are shackled, my legs are shackled, and I literally am trying to swim. It's almost like doing the doggy paddle, but you know, you have to use your hands together. I do a lot of, you know, challenging myself, where I literally lay at the bottom of like a 10 or 12-foot deep pool, put the chains on my chest and just lay there static, because I don't use a nose clip. So I have to get used to the water going out my nose and the pressure and my ears. So yeah, all of those things. And of course, my freediver training has come into play with all of that.
Plus the breathology now
And
too.
now
which is
breathology,
really good. So
yes.
I'll tell you one quick story is that this is why we know we have to train worst case scenario. Now, my training I've got is business and actually I have a master's in counseling. Donna's a teacher. So, you know, we're pretty good at being able to kind of understand the messaging. Obviously, she's really good at what she does. We're real not good at physics. So let me explain to you why I tell you that we're not good at physics. So we were about to actually, we ended up being invited down to Fox and Friends to do an escape. And so they wanted us to do this escape in a clear tank, and we didn't have a clear tank at the time. Luckily, a local glass company developed the 3x3 cube for us. And basically, it's her dimensions in terms of what's there. So they only got the tank done the night before we were supposed to do this. So we had never done it in that tank. And this is why you practice, practice, practice. So we kind of laughed about it because I know that she can hold her breath a long time, and that's fine. And the original design of the tank was the lock would go over the top. When we filled the water up, when we filled the tank up, we didn't realize that maybe it should be level, really level, and how important level is. So that when we locked the tank, okay, it was a little bit tough for me to get it on. So I had to kind of pull it over and pull it down, and I locked the tank. She's underwater, and then all of a sudden kind of gives me kind of a high sign like she's got to come up. When I try to open the tank, it wouldn't open. Ooh. Now, what I didn't understand was that she didn't have a weight belt on, and this is why we use a weight belt in the tank. She was actually pushing up against the top of the tank. But the way the latch was, it was underneath, it was holding it up. I couldn't pull the latch out because there was too much tension there. I didn't know that and didn't figure that out. So she kind of gave me the high sign like I'm out of air. And I'm like, I can't open it up. I had to actually run into the house and try to get something to latch it, because I knew bottom line was I actually had a snorkel inside the house. This is all my fault. I should have had kind of more safety stuff, and I didn't. I don't know how long she was under. It had to be literally 4 minutes. And this is where her free diving kind of saved her. I put the snorkel through the hole, okay, in the top of the tank. The only problem is if anybody who's a snorkeler or a scuba diver knows, when you put a snorkel in to water, what happens?
It fills with water.
Yeah.
So you have to blow out before you can suck in. So she started to almost bring some water into her lungs. This was a big problem. She understood. I said, blow out. And then I realized, I said, go down. And I realized that if I open that, she took the pressure off, we opened it up. She was obviously gasping at that point. There was rattling in her lungs at that point because she had taken in a little water. Ooh, I didn't understand the concept of dry drowning. And the idea is that, you know, that night could have been touch and go for us because it could have developed an infection. We still did the show the next day, but she couldn't do the tank because basically I said to her, you've got to be able to do a 2-minute breath hold. If you can't do a 2-minute breath hold, we can't do it. Every time she tried to hold her breath, within 30 seconds, she had to cough because she was trying to expel that water. So the hardest part about all of that is, and this is where being manager and husband is really tough. At that point, she'd gone through all of this and she was kind of crazed at that point. And I said, I know this is really crazy, but you got to go under and I got to be able to close the tank. I won't lock it, but I'll close the tank. And she's like, well, what are you talking about? I said, if you don't do this right now, this is like falling off a horse. If you don't get back on the horse, you'll never do this again.
Right.
and she managed to do it. So this is where now we train for worst case scenarios, because I made that one mistake, and I'll never make that mistake again. But I'll be honest, when I was walking into the house, the first thing I was thinking to myself is,
I never make,
kids.
yeah, I was going to say, Bill, I never make predictions off stage, but I'll go out on a limb this time. You're driving along and the state trooper goes, okay, open the trunk. What's a crowbar doing in there?
Yeah.
It's like this, officer. The crowbar is there to keep my wife alive. Good luck with that one. Let me real quick, because I'm just going to scan through the gallery here. Oh yeah, it's our good buddy who's here, who's the head honcho boss of Aber TV and our first VP on the International Assembly, Tim Wise. I know he was very much looking forward to watching this, and I'm sure he want to say a few words. Tim.
Welcome, both of you. Thank you so much for your stories, because the stories is what tells this, it tells everyone the experience. I just was in the Magic Mystery School with McBride, and it's a storytelling weekend this weekend. So I was a little late in joining you, but it is about the story. And when you were talking about how Teller came up to you at the end, and you were able to, it gave you goosebumps on the back of your neck when he said it, but also you must have touched him so much to say it. So you must have brought that to him as well, because a good story will bring emotion. It'll bring goosebumps if you think about things, or so how wonderful that you're able to illustrate that and all the good work you're doing. And so I just wanted to just a couple minutes here just to say thank you for your good work. You're inspirational. You obviously work really good as a team. And so that's also inspirational, because not everybody can do that. So just kudos to you. And that's all I really have to say. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you. And for understanding that, because that was a special moment with Teller. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. And so, okay. So as a performer, that came out of nowhere, right? So when he came up to you and said that, even though you'd done all your work and all of this, and then all of a sudden you get this nod of appreciation that you didn't expect, and that's the story you tell, right? So how much fun. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Exactly. Well, the cool thing too was that, it was funny. I almost felt like I was back in school, because we didn't go to him after the performance. He came to us, and it was like, oh my God, this is the final exam. What's he going to say? First off, that he says anything is really cool, because we don't hear him. And he came over, and when he said that, and as soon as he started to speak, I swear, I mean, my palms were sweaty. I was like, oh my God, I hope he liked it. I hope he liked it. And you're right, to have said that, which just blew us both away.
And how you carry that story forward, it's
exactly.
And how emphatic. I mean, he truly does understand the story.
Oh, he's absolutely brilliant. He's like I said, it's an idol, and it's hard to perform in front of an idol. And when that idol then even acknowledges you, never mind pays a compliment like that, it's incredibly gratifying.
Well, good for you. I'm so grateful to
Thanks
hear
so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Anthony.
We've had, I see a couple of regular people who have actually managed to go to the gallery a little bit. Robin Byers and a few other names, one or two I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I just want to kind of, I think Tom wanted to add a few more words. Is that right, Tom?
I was just curious, that story about, being locked in a box. I hope that's not the first time the kids have heard that story.
No, they've heard it. They knew.
Yeah, they're not real happy with the dad at that point, because who's going to get blamed. But yeah, no, absolutely. But honestly, rightfully so. I should have been blamed. It was funny. I said, in fact, I made fun of it when we started to do it. I said, hey, you want to do a dry run? Because we've done so much water stuff that, again, you start to be complacent. And I will tell you, one, I'm so happy that I got a chance to be able to correct that problem, because sometimes you don't get a chance to correct that. But I certainly made that mistake. I told him we'll do a dry run, and it clearly was not dry. But that's the one thing I pride myself on. If I make a mistake, I try to learn from it. And that would have been a really tragic mistake. So,
but it's good you can laugh about it now.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'll echo those words of Tom. It's good we can laugh about it now. And I'm sure everybody else will join in in echoing those words. It's good we can laugh about it now.
Yeah.
Now, if there is nobody else wants to put their mics on and talk to you directly? Oh,
Question.
someone's asked, what was it like being on AGT? Well, I think we kind of covered that because we would probably run to another hour if we did the whole story. If there's nothing else in chat, and if there isn't anybody who would want to put their mic on and speak directly.
I've never met you in person, but my first encounter with you was when I found an 8x10 photograph at the museum.
Oh, that's cool.
And I don't know how we got it. And maybe that's my question.
So at one point, right? Is this Michigan?
Yes, American Museum of Magic.
At one point, I think you were looking for something. Someone reached out. I don't know who.
Okay.
But someone reached out and said, could we send it? And we did, and we never heard anything back. So first off, one, I'm thrilled that you were able to use it, and I'm glad that you have it. We would love to, once this pandemic is over, we would love to get there and see that obviously the museum. We've heard nothing but good things, and you're obviously keeping the art form alive, and we really appreciate that.
Well, let's know when you get around to doing that. We, make a nice feature on the Abra News,
I think
which
that's a great idea.
which we run. Yeah. So yeah, because we're kind of, am I plugging it? Kind of, yeah. Because we're expanding the news section on it now and getting more, interesting things going.
There's Anthony, I was just thinking of a story. When I traveled with Dennis Loomis in the 1970s, Denny had a show called Magicapades, and we went to Alaska to do our show. And Denny did an upside down straitjacket escape. And you never can prepare for everything, right? So here's the end of the show. He's doing the straitjacket. And as he flips off the bar, I'm holding the trapeze bar because it's hanging from the fly. So I'm holding the trapeze bar. He flips over, but there was a weight, a concrete block on the floor okay. And as he flipped down, he hit his head and cracked his head open. And but nobody knew in the audience. I mean, basically the technical director, I just looked over and said, shut the curtain. And everybody thought it was part of the act, right? Because he was holding his head and so on. But you never know. You just don't, no matter how much you practice. I mean, he did that underneath helicopters. He did it, so you just don't know. So even though you prepare for everything, there's always going to be something like a latch that won't 100%. Go because of physics.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, that's why the same thing, even with the leap, we call it the leap of faith, that escape that we showed you. But like she said, sticking your landing, that's the gymnast in her. The first time that she did it, and actually I have a video of it on our website, when she dropped down, you can watch that she didn't stick her landing and she landed and she bounced. You can see her come up, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, the problem is when you take such a pounding like that, the first thing that is going to expel is going to be
air.
But one time we also did, we were trying to take pictures, publicity pictures. And I said, let's do the escape with everything on. So she's 12 feet underwater. She jumps down. She went the other way and landed on her back, expelled her air. And at that point, it was one of the few times that she really did lose her air. Now, thank God she can do a negative, and it gave us enough time to help her, to assist her. She got out of enough that she could get to the surface, but she needed some help. And, that was another one of those times where you kind of go, oh my God, I can't believe we were doing this, cavalierly thinking, oh my God, she'll just be able to do this. And yet, again,
so
do it the wrong way. Little things like that can make all the difference in the world. So you never take anything for granted, not with an 100%. Escape and not especially underwater.
And I was just going to interject there is that you're creating drama with some control, but then there's the out of control drama that can interject itself into the story of drama unexpectedly, right? So I find that kind of compelling in the work that you do as or any escape artist that works in those conditions where their life's at risk, right? Or a parent life at risk, but really it is at risk.
Yeah, I mean, Penn and Teller do a nice job of saying this. Anybody who comes in and continues to tell you that this is death defying, you know what? They can't stand that stuff because you know what? You owe your audience everything that you can to make sure that you're safe. She doesn't have a death wish. She has a life wish. I want every one of these to kind of come through. And shame on us if we don't do the planning and the training to be able to have this kind of go right. Because again, the psychologist in me, the counselor in me, I don't ever want to traumatize my audience. I want them to be excited about that roller coaster ride, but I want them to get off. By the same token, I want to make sure that she comes up. And that's kind of what this is all about. So that's why we train. And some people think it's over the top, but that's why the underwater lifting, that's why, you know, all the stuff that she's doing in terms of creating stress underwater is that to ready herself. So if something does happen, something goes amiss, she's handled this before. It may not be that same thing, but she can go beyond.
There was a stress level, you know.
Yeah, and McBride talks about the magician prepares. Well, the escape artist prepares.
Absolutely.
Right? And you wouldn't think that you'd have to have that, but there's a real significant amount of work that goes into that.
You have to have it. Yeah.
You try to control as much as you can, but as you said, and you saw, you can't control everything, but you have to be able to handle it if it comes.
Right. Right.
Which obviously you both have done, and you've handled today remarkably. So let me please thank you, Bill and Donna, again and I think we're getting a lot of hands up and applause for you for being here. And thank you everybody for joining us, and particularly to Tim, Rod, to Tom, and of course Brett behind the scenes, who's taking care of a lot of stuff, and most illustrious himself. So I think we come to. Oh, you're very welcome. Sorry, I was going to say we come to that point, I think, where we need to wrap.
It went like that, and you made it funny, Anthony. Thanks so much, as always.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you
it's okay.
So much for all your time, and thank you everybody for tuning in.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much to all your family. Tell my buddies next week, because we won't see you till the next show, which is with Abby and Jeff McBride. And I'll give you a heads up on that. The date, 4th of December. That's when it is. It's on a Friday.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Or as we like to say, Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, yes.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. Yeah, Happy Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving gag is theirs. I won't do it. Happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see you on the 4th of December with the next one with, as I mentioned, Abby and Jeff McBride. Take care. Enjoy Thanksgiving.
Thank you all.
And
Bye-bye.
thank you all for being here. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.